Every girl at Seoul Elite International wanted Park Jae-hyun the moment he stepped onto campus. The Korean transfer student with the effortless charisma and old money elegance. But Maya Thompson, the only black girl in the entire school, didn't even acknowledge his existence when he walked past her in the corridor. And that single act of disinterest sparked something in Jae-hyun that no amount of adoration ever had. What he didn't realize was that Maya had discovered the painful way that boys like him only pursued what remained out of reach. And she refused to become another trophy. But Jae-hyun wasn't playing around. And his fixation on the one girl who wouldn't surrender to him was about to transform both their worlds completely. Welcome to Alina Korean Stories, besties. Please like, share, and subscribe. Seoul Elite International was the type of institution where wealth spoke softly and influence roared loudly. Jae-hyun had arrived from Los Angeles 4 weeks ago, and the reception had been swift and intense. Girls tracked his movements between lectures, slipped messages into his locker, invented reasons to occupy seats near him during meals. His Korean-American heritage made him intriguing enough to capture attention. His looks made him popular enough to be adored, and his family's fortune made him untouchable enough to be coveted. He should have been flourishing. Instead, he was consumed by the one girl who behaved as though he was invisible. Maya Collins occupied the seat 2 rows in front of him during advanced English literature, her posture immaculate, her focus directed completely on the instructor. Jae-hyun had dedicated the entire session observing how daylight played in her natural curls, how she unconsciously drummed her fingers against her journal, how her lips formed silent words when she absorbed passages quietly. She hadn't glanced backward once, not even briefly, and it was making him absolutely restless. Following class, he watched her collect her materials with precise motions, her hands graceful and deliberate against the weathered textbook covers. She was the sole student who transported actual physical books rather than digital devices. And something about that quiet defiance made his pulse quicken. Before he could restrain himself, Jae-hyun was advancing, navigating through the cluster of students attempting to capture his interest, intercepting Maya just as she entered the hallway. "Hey," he said, and his voice emerged rougher than planned. "I'm Jae-hyun." Maya raised her eyes to him with a gaze that was deep brown and utterly unaffected. "I'm aware of who you are. Everyone's aware of who you are." Her speech was precise, cultured, with traces of something distinctly Atlanta underneath. "You're the transfer student all the girls can't stop obsessing over." "And you're Maya Collins," Jae-hyun said, positioning himself against the locker adjacent to hers with what he hoped projected casual assurance, "the girl who's enrolled in every honors course, mentors at the youth center on weekends, and has never once glanced in my direction." Her eyebrow lifted. "You've been monitoring." "I observed details." He observed everything about her. How she captured her bottom lip between her teeth when focusing. How she consistently selected seats beside windows. How she wore a delicate gold chain that reflected light when she shifted. "You're different from the other girls here. Because I'm not pursuing you." Maya's tone was sardonic, entertained. "That must be crushing for your pride." Jae-hyun felt his mouth curve into an authentic smile for the first time in weeks. "Because you're genuine. Everyone else here is performing. You're simply existing." Something flashed in her expression. Surprise, perhaps. Before she concealed it quickly. "That's an impressive line. Does it typically work?" "I have no idea. I've never attempted it before." The honesty startled him as much as it seemed to startle her. "Listen, I'm struggling with the literature assignment. Think you could assist me?" Maya's eyes narrowed fractionally. "You achieved a 97 on the previous exam. Try again." He should have anticipated she'd recognize the pretense. Jae-hyun ran fingers through his hair, suddenly feeling vulnerable in ways he wasn't accustomed to. "All right, honesty. I want to understand why you're the only person in this entire institution who doesn't care that I exist. And I want to know if there's any possibility you'd allow me to take you for coffee after school." "No," Maya said plainly, securing her locker. "No, you won't explain why. Or no to the coffee." "Both." But she was suppressing a smile. He could detect it pulling at the edges of her mouth. "I don't date, Jae-hyun, especially not guys who have devoted followers." "What if I dismissed the followers? What if you left me alone?" But her tone was gentler now, less cutting. I'm not interested in becoming another girl in your rotation. Find someone else to pursue. She departed before he could respond. And Jaehyun watched her leave with his heart executing something reckless and foolish in his chest. He'd never been rejected before, never had to work for anyone's attention, and somehow, impossibly, it made him desire her more intensely. The following day, Jaehyun appeared at the youth center where Maya volunteered. He convinced himself he was merely curious, merely wanted to comprehend what motivated her. But when he entered and observed her seated on the floor with a circle of children, reading them a story with animated expressions that made them laugh and gasp, something in his chest expanded further. She was radiant like this, unguarded and authentic, her entire face illuminated with happiness. May I help you? An elderly woman approached, her expression courteously inquisitive. I'm interested in volunteering, Jaehyun said, unable to divert his attention from Maya. I have afternoons available. The woman's face brightened. Excellent. We constantly need additional assistance. I'm Mrs. Park, the coordinator. Let me process your registration. Maya noticed him 30 minutes later, her eyes expanding with something between surprise and doubt when she observed him assisting a young boy with his reading homework. Jaehyun pretended not to register her stare, concentrating on the child's hesitant pronunciation of English vocabulary. But he was intensely conscious of her presence, of how she navigated through the space like she belonged there, like these children were her family. What are you doing here? Maya inquired when the reading session concluded and the children dispersed to different activities. Volunteering? Jaehyun stood, meeting her skeptical gaze. That's permitted, isn't it? You're following me. I'm assisting children. If we happen to be in the same location, that's merely coincidence. But she was resisting that smile again. Jaehyun, seriously, what do you want? Everything. He wanted everything. Wanted to discover what made her laugh and what made her cry. Wanted to understand why she held herself so carefully, so separate from everyone else. Wanted to know if he could make her look at him the way she looked at these children with warmth and trust and something that might be affection. But he couldn't express any of that without sounding irrational. Coffee, he said instead. Just coffee. 1 hour. If you despise it, I'll leave you alone permanently. Maya studied him for an extended moment, and Jaehyun held his breath without intending to. Finally, she exhaled. Fine, 1 coffee, but you're paying, and if any of your followers appear, I'm departing. Deal. They went to a modest cafe several blocks from the center, concealed from the primary commercial district where Seoul elite international students usually gathered. Maya ordered something elaborate with additional foam, and Jaehyun ordered whatever she was having because he was too occupied watching her to concentrate on the menu. So, Maya said when they were situated in a corner booth, "What's your story?" Affluent Korean-American boy transfers to Seoul Elite International. Why? Jaehyun wrapped his hands around his cup, selecting his words carefully. My father wanted me to connect with my heritage, improve the language, understand the culture. He paused. Also, I made some significant mistakes back in Los Angeles, and this was his method of teaching me accountability. What kind of mistakes? The costly kind. I was partying excessively, avoiding classes, associating with people who valued my wallet more than me. Jaehyun met her eyes. I wasn't a decent person, Maya. I'm attempting to be better now. She seemed to contemplate this, her fingers drawing patterns on her cup. And pursuing me is part of being better? Wanting to know you is part of being better. The words emerged more intense than he intended. You're the first authentic person I've encountered in a long time. Everyone else just wants something from me. You don't even want me to exist. I didn't say that. But you don't need anything from me. You don't need my money or my popularity or whatever else people think I can provide them. Jaehyun leaned forward. That's rare. That's valuable. And yes, that makes me want to know you. Maya's expression softened slightly. I've learned to be cautious about who I allow close. This school, this city, it's not easy being different. Being the curvy black girl in a sea of delicate Korean beauty standards. She paused. So I keep my head down. I focus on my academics, my volunteer work, getting into a good university. I don't have time for complications. I'm not asking to complicate your life. That's precisely what you're asking. But her smile was melancholy now. Understanding. Jaehyun, you're kind. And yes, you're attractive, but you're also surrounded by chaos constantly. Girls competing over you. Gossip circulating. I don't need that energy. Jaehyun wanted to protest. Wanted to promise he'd protect her from all of it. But he knew she was correct. His presence in her life would attract attention she didn't desire. So instead, he shifted the subject, inquired about her favorite books, her plans following graduation, her thoughts on living in Seoul versus wherever she originated. And Maya responded, slowly relaxing, lowering her guard inch by careful inch. 1 hour transformed into 2, then 3. The cafe began closing around them before they registered the time. And when they finally stood to depart, Jaehyun caught Maya's hand without thinking, his fingers weaving through hers. She froze, looking down at their joined hands with something like amazement. Thank you, Jaehyun said quietly, for giving me a chance. This was just coffee. But she didn't withdraw her hand. Don't interpret too much into it. Too late. He smiled. Way too late. The following week brought complications Jaehyun hadn't anticipated. His casual friendship with Maya, which consisted of studying together in the library and occasional coffee excursions, became campus-wide news. Suddenly, Maya was being whispered about in hallways, evaluated by girls who'd never noticed her before, questioned about her intentions with their collective infatuation. And Jaehyun watched with increasing fury as she retreated, constructing her walls higher, looking at him with something that might have been regret. You need to back off, Maya told him after a particularly brutal day where someone had deliberately spilled juice on her uniform. This isn't working. What isn't working? Us being friends. There is no us. Her voice was tight, stressed. There's you, the golden boy everyone adores. And there's me, the girl who's suddenly a target because you decided to pay attention. I told you I didn't need complications. Jaehyun felt something cold settle in his stomach. Tell me who spilled juice on you. What? No, Jaehyun. That's not the point. Tell me their names. His voice had gone low, dangerous in ways that surprised them both. I'll handle it. That's exactly the problem. Maya's frustration exploded. I don't need you to handle things for me. I don't need you to fight my battles or protect me. I need you to leave me alone so my life can return to normal. I can't do that. Why not? Because I'm falling for you. Because you're all I think about. Because the idea of not seeing you makes me feel like I'm suffocating. But Jaehyun couldn't say any of that. So instead, he stepped back, forced himself to nod. Fine, I'll give you space. But Maya, this isn't over. Not for me. He walked away before she could respond, his hands clenched into fists. And that night, he made calls. Utilized connections his father had taught him to utilize. By morning, the 3 girls who'd been harassing Maya had been summoned into the principal's office, their scholarship statuses suddenly under examination. Jaehyun didn't advertise his involvement, but word spread anyway. Don't interfere with Maya Collins. She's protected. Maya confronted him 2 days later, her eyes blazing. What did you do? I don't know what you're talking about. Those girls, they're terrified now. People are saying you threatened them. I didn't threaten anyone. Jaehyun kept his expression neutral. I just ensured certain information reached the appropriate people. They were bullying you, Maya. That's not acceptable. I can fight my own battles. I know you can. He stepped closer, and she didn't move away. But you shouldn't have to. Not alone. Not when I can help. Something in her expression cracked. Jaehyun, this is exactly what I was afraid of. You can't just fix everything for me. That's not how the world works. It's how my world works. He caught her hand. Gentle but firm. And whether you like it or not, you're in my world now. People know you're important to me. That means something here. I never asked to be important to you. Too bad. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. You are. Anyway, they stood there in the empty hallway, tension crackling between them like electricity. Jaehyun could see Maya's resolve wavering. Could see the way she looked at their joined hands like she wanted to hold on but was afraid to. Finally, she pulled back but slowly, reluctantly. I have to go, she said quietly. I have tutoring. Maya. He waited until she looked at him. I'm not giving up on us. Just so you know. There is no us. Not yet. His smile was soft, certain. But there will be. The tension between them simmered for another week before everything exploded. Jaehyun had been invited to a party at one of the wealthy students' family estates, the kind of invitation that was really a command performance. He hadn't planned to attend until he learned Maya would be there, dragged along by her roommate. The thought of her surrounded by intoxicated teenagers with wandering hands made something possessive and violent stir in his chest. He found her within minutes of arriving, standing near the pool with a drink she wasn't touching, looking uncomfortable and out of place. And he found the three guys circling her like predators, their intentions written clearly in their predatory smiles. Jaehyun was moving before conscious thought, his hand settling on the small of Maya's back with unmistakable ownership. "Hey, beautiful," he said, the endearment rolling off his tongue naturally. "Sorry I'm late." Maya's eyes widened, but she was intelligent enough to play along. "It's okay. I was just telling these guys I was waiting for someone." The tallest of the three, a basketball player named Sungho, scoffed. "Since when are you dating anyone?" "Since now." Jaehyun's voice dropped to something cold. "Problem?" Sungho looked between them, clearly weighing his options. Finally, he backed off, but not before muttering something crude in Korean about Maya that made Jaehyun's vision white. His hand tightened on her waist, every muscle in his body tensing. "What did he say?" Maya whispered. "Nothing important." Because repeating it would hurt her, and Jaehyun would rather die than hurt her. "Come with me, please." He led her away from the party through the mansion's elaborate gardens until they reached a small pavilion overlooking the city lights. Maya pulled away gently, wrapping her arms around herself. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "Yes, I did." Jaehyun leaned against the railing, fighting the urge to pull her close. "Maya, I need you to understand something. I don't do casual. I don't do games. When I care about someone, I care completely. And I care about you. You barely know me. I know enough." He turned to face her fully. "I know you read to children because it makes them feel less alone. I know you study until 3 a.m. because you're working twice as hard to prove yourself. I know you wear that gold chain every day because it was your grandmother's and touching it calms you. I know you pretend to be okay when you're not. And I know you think you have to handle everything alone." Maya's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Jaehyun, stop." "Why?" "Because it's true. Because someone finally sees you." He stepped closer. "You're not invisible anymore. Not to me. And that scares you." "Of course it scares me." Her voice cracked. "You're you. Rich and popular and temporary. I'm the girl who'll be a footnote in your high school experience. The interesting detour before you return to California and your real life. That's not fair. Isn't it?" Maya wiped at her eyes angrily. "You think this is real, but it's not. It's proximity and novelty. In 6 months, you'll barely remember my name." Jaehyun closed the distance between them in 2 strides, his hands framing her face with devastating gentleness. "In 6 months, I'll remember exactly how you looked right now. How you taste like mint and coffee. How you smell like vanilla and something uniquely you. How your eyes go gold in sunlight. I'll remember because you're not forgettable, Maya. You're unforgettable. Don't." But her hands had come up to grip his wrists, holding on instead of pushing away. "Please don't say things you don't mean." "I mean every word." His thumb brushed away a tear. "And I'm going to prove it to you every single day until you believe me." Then he kissed her, soft and careful and absolutely certain. The kiss deepened, desperate, and sweet. Everything Jaehyun had been feeling for weeks poured into this single moment. He could feel her heart pounding against his chest. Could taste salt from her tears. Could feel her surrender and fear and hope all tangled together. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jaehyun rested his forehead against hers. "Tell me you don't feel this. Tell me I'm imagining it." "I can't." Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "God help me, I can't." "Then stop fighting it. Stop fighting us." His hand slid down to her waist, pulling her closer. "Let me be with you. Really be with you." Maya looked up at him with eyes that held everything. Fear and longing and reluctant trust. "This is going to hurt." When it ends, it's going to destroy me. Then I'll make sure it never ends. Jaehyun kissed her again, softer this time. I'm all in, Maya. Are you? She answered by pulling him closer, by kissing him like he was oxygen and she was drowning. And under the Seoul night sky, surrounded by gardens that cost more than most people's homes, two people who shouldn't have worked somehow did, perfectly, impossibly, completely. The rest of the party faded away. They stayed in that pavilion for hours, talking and kissing and existing in a bubble where nothing else mattered. Jaehyun learned that Maya's father was military, stationed in Seoul for 3 years. That she missed Atlanta but loved Korea. That she wanted to be a teacher or maybe a journalist. That her biggest fear was being ordinary, forgettable, just another girl who passed through the world without leaving a mark. You're extraordinary, Jaehyun told her seriously. And anyone who can't see that is blind. Maya smiled against his shoulder, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest. You're pretty extraordinary yourself, even if you do have devoted followers. I'm disbanding them. He was only half joking. As of tomorrow, I'm officially unavailable. People are going to lose their minds. Good. Jaehyun tilted her face up to kiss her again. Let them. All I care about is you. They left the party sometime around midnight, Jaehyun's jacket draped over Maya's shoulders. He called his driver, refusing to let her take a taxi home alone. And when they pulled up to her apartment building, he walked her to the door like the gentleman his mother had raised him to be. I'll see you tomorrow? Maya asked, her hand lingering in his. You'll see me every day. Jaehyun kissed her knuckles. Fair warning, I'm probably going to be annoyingly attentive. I've never had a girlfriend before. I'm going to mess this up approximately 100 times. You've never had a girlfriend? She looked genuinely surprised. But you're so. Players don't date, Maya. They play. He brushed hair back from her face. I told you I don't do casual, and no one was worth changing that for. Until you. She kissed him then, standing on tiptoes to reach, pouring everything she felt into it. When she pulled back, her eyes were soft. I've never had a boyfriend, so we can mess this up together. Perfect. He grinned. Let's be disasters together. That night, lying in his bed and staring at the ceiling, Jaehyun replayed every moment. The way she smiled, the way she kissed, the way she looked at him like he was someone worth seeing. He'd dated casually before, kissed plenty of girls, but nothing had ever felt like this. Nothing had ever mattered like this. Maya had somehow become essential to his breathing, and the realization should have terrified him. Instead, it felt like coming home. The next morning at school, Jaehyun found Maya at her locker and kissed her in front of everyone. Not dramatically, but unmistakably, a statement. She's mine, back off. Maya blushed, but didn't push him away, her fingers threading through his naturally. And the entire school population seemed to collectively gasp. By lunch, they were the only topic of conversation. Park Jaehyun, the untouchable transfer student, was officially dating Maya Collins. Some people were shocked, some were jealous, most were confused. What did she have that they didn't? Jaehyun could have told them. Everything. She had everything that mattered. But not everyone was happy about their relationship, particularly Sung-ho and his friends who'd lost face at the party. During gym class, one of them deliberately slammed into Maya during basketball, sending her sprawling. Jaehyun saw red. He was across the court before thinking, hauling the guy up by his collar. Touch her again, Jaehyun said in perfect dangerous Korean, and I'll make you regret you were born. Jaehyun, stop. Maya was pulling at his arm, but he barely registered it. All he could see was her scraped knee, the blood trickling down her leg, the pain in her eyes. You think you're tough? The guy spat. You think dating the foreign girl makes you cool? She's using you, man. Can't you see that? Jaehyun's fist connected before conscious thought, the satisfying crunch of cartilage breaking. Then he was being pulled away by teachers, by security, by Maya's voice cutting through his rage. Jaehyun, stop. You're making it worse. He stopped because she asked, not because he wanted to. His knuckles were split and bleeding, his uniform ruined, his heart pounding with adrenaline, but all he could focus on was Maya's disappointment. She looked at him like she didn't recognize him, like he'd confirmed her worst fears. "I'm sorry," he said hoarsely as security led him toward the principal's office. "Maya, I'm sorry." She didn't respond, just turned and walked away, leaving him feeling more alone than he'd ever felt in his life. Jaehyun was suspended for 3 days. His father flew in from California specifically to reprimand him, then dragged him home for a lecture about responsibility and control that lasted 2 hours. But none of it registered. All Jaehyun could think about was the look on Maya's face. He'd promised to be better. And at the first sign of trouble, he'd reverted to violence. She deserved better than that. On the second day of his suspension, his phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was Maya's roommate, Hannah. "Maya's sick. Been throwing up all morning. Thought you should know." Jaehyun was out the door before he could think it through, his driver speeding toward her apartment. He showed up with soup from her favorite restaurant, medicine from the pharmacy, and flowers because he didn't know what else to bring. Hannah let him in with a knowing look. "She's in her room. Fair warning, she's stubborn." Jaehyun knocked softly before entering. Maya was curled up in bed, looking pale and miserable, her natural hair spread across the pillow. When she saw him, her eyes widened. "What are you doing here?" "Taking care of you." He set everything down on her desk. "Hannah said you were sick." "I'm fine. You should go." But her voice was weak, unconvincing. "Not happening." Jaehyun pulled up a chair beside her bed. "When's the last time you ate?" "I can't keep anything down." "Have you tried soup?" He opened the container, the smell of broth filling the room. "Come on, small sips." Maya tried to protest, but Jaehyun was persistent, spooning tiny amounts into her mouth until she'd managed half the container. Then he handed her medicine, made sure she drank water, adjusted her pillows. He moved around her space with quiet efficiency, and Maya watched him with something complicated in her expression. "You don't have to do this," she said finally. "I'm mad at you." "I know you should be." Jaehyun sat back down, his elbows on his knees. "I'm sorry, Maya. For losing control. For making everything worse. For being exactly the complication you didn't want. That guy deserved it. Maybe. But you didn't deserve the fallout." He reached for her hand carefully. "I need to be better at controlling my temper. At thinking before I act. You make me feel things I've never felt before, and sometimes it's overwhelming, but that's not an excuse." Maya squeezed his fingers weakly. "You scared me. Not because of the violence, but because I realized how much you cared." "How much I cared." "And that's terrifying, Jaehyun. Caring this much about someone." "I know. It terrifies me too." He brought her hand to his lips. "But I'm not going anywhere. Even when you're mad at me, even when I mess up, I'm here." "Why?" Her voice was small. "Why me?" "Because you're you." Jaehyun's answer was simple. Absolute. "Because you challenge me. Because you see past all the surface stuff to who I really am. Because when I'm with you, I want to be better. And because the thought of not being with you makes me feel like I'm missing a vital organ." Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks. "That's the most romantic and terrifying thing anyone's ever said to me." "Get used to it." He wiped her tears gently. "I plan on saying romantic and terrifying things to you for a very long time." She pulled him closer, and he climbed carefully onto the bed beside her, holding her while she cried and laughed and held him like he was the only solid thing in her universe. They fell asleep like that, tangled together. And when Hannah checked on them an hour later, she just smiled and closed the door quietly. Jaehyun stayed the entire day, ignoring his father's increasingly irritated texts. He made Maya eat crackers, made sure she stayed hydrated, put on movies she loved. And when she felt well enough to sit up, they talked about everything. His life in California, the loneliness he'd felt despite being surrounded by people. Her experiences moving every few years, never staying anywhere long enough to put down roots. The fear they both carried that they weren't enough, that they'd somehow fail the people who mattered most. "I've never told anyone that stuff," Maya admitted, her head on his shoulder. "About feeling rootless. I've never told anyone about feeling alone." Jaehyun pressed a kiss to her hair. "Guess we're both good at hiding." "Not from each other, though." "No, not from each other." By evening, Maya was feeling better, her color returning. Jaehyun reluctantly prepared to leave, but she caught his hand. "Thank you for showing up. For taking care of me. Always." He kissed her softly. "I'll always show up for you, Maya. No matter what. Even when I'm being difficult. Especially then." His smile was warm. "You're worth it." When Jaehyun returned to school, the atmosphere had shifted. Word had spread about him spending his suspension taking care of Maya, and suddenly their relationship seemed less scandalous, more romantic. Girls who'd been hostile to Maya started backing off, perhaps realizing that Jaehyun's devotion was absolute. And the guys who'd given her trouble found themselves on the receiving end of social exile, orchestrated by Jaehyun's quiet influence. "You're terrifying when you want to be," Maya told him one afternoon as they studied in the library. "You haven't threatened anyone, but suddenly everyone's treating me differently. I just had some conversations." Jaehyun's tone was innocent, but his eyes held mischief. Explained how things were going to be. "People are very reasonable when you approach them correctly." "Park Jaehyun, are you using your family's influence to protect my honor?" "Absolutely." He wasn't even ashamed. "And I'll do it again. Get used to it." Maya shook her head, but she was smiling. "You're impossible. You like me anyway?" "Unfortunately, yes." She leaned over to kiss him, soft and sweet. "I really, really do." Their relationship settled into something beautiful and terrifying. Jaehyun learned Maya's rhythms, the way she needed space when stressed, the way she craved affection after bad days. He learned that she loved thunderstorms and hated winter, that she collected vintage books and wrote poetry she was too shy to share. He learned her body's language. The way she touched her necklace when anxious. The way she bit her lip when trying not to laugh. And Maya learned Jaehyun. Learned that beneath the confidence was insecurity. That he worried constantly about being good enough, smart enough, worthy enough. Learned that he had nightmares about losing people, about being alone. Learned that he loved with a ferocity that was both thrilling and overwhelming. That once he committed to something, he committed completely. 2 months into their relationship, things took a darker turn. Maya started receiving threatening messages from anonymous accounts. Nothing overtly dangerous, just enough to unsettle her. Comments about her weight, her race, her relationship with Jaehyun. Suggestions that she should leave before she got hurt. Jaehyun found out when he noticed her checking her phone obsessively, her expression troubled. "What's wrong?" He took her phone gently. What he saw made his blood boil. Dozens of messages, each one crueler than the last. "How long has this been happening?" "A few weeks." Maya's voice was small. "I didn't want to worry you. You should have told me immediately." Jaehyun was already texting his tech-savvy friend, Kim Min-jae, who could trace IP addresses in his sleep. "This stops now. Jaehyun, you can't just. Watch me." His tone left no room for argument. "No one threatens you. No one makes you feel unsafe. I don't care who they are or why they're doing this. It ends today." By that evening, Min-jae had traced the messages to 3 different students, all members of Sungho's friend group. Jaehyun's response was swift and decisive. He called his father, explained the situation, and by the next morning, all 3 students' families were receiving calls from lawyers about cyber harassment and hate crimes. The messages stopped immediately, but the damage was done. Maya was shaken, more withdrawn than before. She started spending more time alone, less time in social situations. Jaehyun watched her retreat and felt helpless, unsure how to reach her. Things came to a head during the school's winter formal, an elaborate event that Maya had initially been excited about. "I'm not going," she told Jaehyun a week before the dance. I can't handle the staring," the whispers. "Then we won't go." His answer was immediate. "We'll do something else, just us." "You should go. You're on the planning committee." "I don't care about the planning committee." Jaehyun caught her hands. "Maya, look at me. I care about you. Only you. If you're not going, I'm not going. That's not fair to you. Life's not fair." He smiled gently. "But choosing you? That's the easiest choice I've ever made." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I'm ruining your senior year. You're making my senior year worth living." Jaehyun pulled her into his arms. "Everything before you is just noise, Maya. You're the signal. You're what matters. They skipped the formal and instead spent the evening at the Han River, bundled in coats and watching the lights reflect on the water. Jaehyun brought a portable speaker and they danced in the empty park, just the two of them. It was the most romantic night of Maya's life, better than any formal could have been. Thank you, she whispered against his chest. For choosing me. Always. Jaehyun's arms tightened around her. For as long as you'll let me. What if I want forever? He pulled back to look at her, his expression serious. Then you've got it. Forever. I'm yours, Maya Collins. Completely. She kissed him then, deep and desperate, pouring everything she felt into it. And Jaehyun kissed her back with equal intensity, his hands tangling in her hair, pulling her impossibly closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, the air between them had changed. Charged with something new, something inevitable. Come home with me, Jaehyun said softly. My parents are in California. The house is empty. We don't have to do anything. I want more time with you. Please. Maya should have said no. Should have been cautious. But she was tired of being careful, tired of holding back. So she nodded. And they drove to his family's home in silence, hands clasped tightly together. The house was massive, modern, and cold in the way expensive things often are. But Jaehyun's room was different. Warmer, filled with photos and books and evidence of a life being lived. Maya stood in the center of it, suddenly nervous. Jaehyun sensed her tension and didn't push. Just put on music and pulled her into his arms again. They danced slowly, her head on his chest, his chin resting on her hair. The intimacy of it was overwhelming, more intense than any kiss. Just being held, being valued, being seen. Maya felt tears sliding down her cheeks without meaning to. And Jaehyun noticed immediately. Hey, what's wrong? He cupped her face, thumbs brushing away tears. Nothing's wrong. Her smile was watery. I'm just happy. Terrified and happy and completely overwhelmed by how much I feel for you. I love you. The words escaped before Jaehyun could think them through. I know it's too soon and I know we're young and I know you probably think I'm crazy, but I love you, Maya. I'm in love with you. Maya's breath caught. Jaehyun. You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. He kissed her forehead. You're it for me. End of story. I love you too. The confession burst from her. God, I love you so much. It scares me. Jaehyun kissed her then, deep and claiming. And Maya melted into him. They stumbled toward the bed, still kissing, hands exploring with new permission. Clothes came off slowly, reverently. Each revelation met with whispered praise. Jaehyun told her she was beautiful until she believed it. Kissed every inch of skin he exposed. Made her feel cherished in ways she'd never imagined. When they finally came together, it was gentle and intense and absolutely right. Maya had never felt so connected to another person, so completely known and accepted. Jaehyun held her like she was precious, moved with her like they'd been doing this forever, whispered her name like a prayer. And when it was over, when they lay tangled together and breathless, Maya felt transformed. Claimed. His. I love you, Jaehyun said again, his fingers tracing patterns on her spine. I'll never stop saying it. Good. Maya kissed his chest right over his heart. Because I'll never stop wanting to hear it. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other. And for the first time in her life, Maya felt completely safe. Completely home. The next morning brought complications neither of them anticipated. Maya woke in Jaehyun's arms, content and happy until she checked her phone and saw the messages. Her father had been trying to reach her all night. There was an emergency. He was being deployed immediately, leaving Korea in 3 days. She needed to come home. I have to go, Maya said, already scrambling for her clothes. My dad. He's deploying. I need to see him before he leaves. Jaehyun drove her home in tense silence, his hand tight on hers. When they arrived at her apartment, Maya's father was waiting, his military uniform immaculate, his expression stern. He took one look at Maya's rumpled clothes, at Jaehyun's protective stance, and his jaw tightened. Inside. Now, he said to Maya. Then to Jaehyun, you should leave. With respect, sir, I'm not leaving, Maya. That wasn't a request, son. Jaehyun looked at Maya, who nodded. It's okay. I'll call you later. He left, but not before kissing her forehead. A silent promise that this wasn't over. Maya watched him go, then turned to face her father's judgment. How long has this been going on? Her father's tone was controlled, but anger simmered beneath. 2 months. Maya's voice was steady. Dad, I know what this looks like. It looks like my daughter spent the night with a boy I've never met. A boy who's part of the wealthy elite crowd I warned you about. He paced the small living room. Maya, you're better than this. Smarter than this. I love him. The simple statement stopped her father mid-stride. I know it's fast and I know I'm young, but I love him, Dad. And he loves me. Love. Her father's expression softened slightly. Baby girl, you're 18. You don't know what love is yet. I know what it feels like to be seen. To be valued for who I am, not what I can offer. Jaehyun sees me, Dad. Really sees me. And I see him. That's love. Her father studied her for a long moment. He treats you well? Respects you? He treats me like I'm the most important person in his world. Maya's voice cracked. And now you're leaving. And I don't know when I'll see you again. And I'm terrified. And Jaehyun's the only thing keeping me from falling apart. Her father pulled her into a hug. And Maya broke, sobbing against his chest. I'm scared, Dad. What if something happens to you? What if you don't come back? Hey, I'm coming back. Always have, always will. He smoothed her hair. And if this boy is as important to you as you say, then I need to meet him properly before I leave. That evening, Jaehyun came to dinner at Maya's apartment, bringing flowers for her father and wearing his most respectful expression. The meal was tense at first, her father interrogating Jaehyun about his intentions, his family, his plans. But Jaehyun answered honestly, holding nothing back. I love your daughter, sir, Jaehyun said firmly. I know I'm young and I know I've made mistakes, but I'm committed to being the man she deserves. To supporting her dreams. Protecting her heart. Standing beside her through everything life throws at us. And when she goes to university, what then? Then I go wherever she goes. Jaehyun's answer was immediate. I've already talked to my parents about transferring schools. Wherever Maya wants to study, I'll make it work. Maya's eyes widened. You never told me that. Because I didn't want to pressure you. Jaehyun smiled at her. Your future is yours to decide. I'm just asking to be part of it. Her father seemed satisfied by this, and the rest of dinner passed easier conversation. When Jaehyun left, her father pulled Maya aside. He's a good kid. Intense, but good. He really loves you. I really love him too. Then don't let fear keep you from being happy. Her father kissed her forehead. Life's too short for that. The next 3 days were a blur of preparation and goodbyes. Maya spent every possible moment with her father, but Jaehyun was there too, supporting them both. He helped pack, organized paperwork, made sure nothing was forgotten. And when the day came for her father to leave, Jaehyun stood beside Maya at the airport, his hand in hers, his presence the only thing keeping her grounded. Take care of my daughter, her father said to Jaehyun before boarding. That's not a request. I will, sir. I promise. Maya watched her father disappear into the terminal, and then she broke. Jaehyun caught her, held her while she sobbed, whispered reassurances that he probably didn't believe, but said anyway because she needed to hear them. And in that moment, Maya realized that Jaehyun had become essential to her survival. That she trusted him with the broken parts of herself she'd never shown anyone. The weeks following her father's deployment were hard. Maya threw herself into schoolwork, into volunteering, into anything that kept her from thinking about danger and deployment and the possibility of loss. Jaehyun stayed close, never pushing, but always present. A steady anchor in her storm. They studied together, ate meals together, fell asleep together more nights than not. The physical intimacy between them deepened, became a language they both spoke fluently. A way of saying without words, I'm here. I've got you. You're not alone. But not everyone was happy about their relationship's evolution. Sungho and his friends, still bitter about their humiliation, started spreading rumors that Maya had gotten pregnant to trap Jaehyun. that she was using him for his money, that he'd cheated on her with multiple girls. The lies were vicious and persistent, designed to break them apart. Maya tried to ignore it, but the constant whispers wore her down. She started withdrawing again. Things came to a head when someone spray-painted slurs on her locker. Words so vile that Maya couldn't make herself go near it. Jaehyun found her in the bathroom, crying in a stall. "Hey, I've got you. Come on." He pulled her out gently, fury and heartbreak warring in his expression. "Who did this? It doesn't matter. It matters to me." His voice was steel. "Maya, this ends now. I'm done playing nice. What are you going to do? Whatever it takes." He held her face in his hands. "You don't deserve this. Any of this. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows that." That afternoon, Jaehyun called an assembly as student council president, a position he'd been elected to weeks earlier. He had that authority. He stood on stage in front of the entire school and spoke with devastating clarity. For months, someone at this school has been harassing Maya Collins. Messages, threats, vandalism. It stops today. Not because I'm asking nicely, but because I'm telling you. Maya is under my protection. That means if you come after her, you come after me. And trust me when I say you don't want that fight. He paused, his eyes scanning the crowd. I know who's been behind most of it. Sung-ho and his crew. And I'm giving you one chance to apologize publicly. Otherwise, I'll make sure every university you've applied to knows exactly what kind of person you are. Your scholarships, your futures. They're all at risk. Choose wisely." The assembly ended in stunned silence. Sung-ho tried to play it off, but by the end of the day, faced with the very real threat of losing his university prospects, he apologized to Maya in front of witnesses. It was grudging and insincere, but it was enough to end the active harassment. "You didn't have to do that," Maya told Jaehyun that evening. "Put yourself out there like that." "Yes, I did." He pulled her into his lap on his couch. "You're my girlfriend, Maya. My future. Protecting you isn't optional. It's mandatory." "Your future?" Her voice was soft. Wondering. "Yeah." Jaehyun kissed her gently. "I meant what I told your dad. Wherever you go, I go. Whatever you do, I support. You're it for me." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I got into Columbia. Early decision. They sent the acceptance letter last week." Jaehyun went very still. "New York?" "Yeah." She bit her lip. "I was afraid to tell you. Afraid you'd feel obligated to follow me or that you'd want to stay here or—" "I got into Columbia too," Jaehyun interrupted, his smile breaking through. "Also early decision. I applied because you mentioned it was your dream school. I figured if I got in, I could surprise you. Guess we surprised each other." Maya laughed, the sound broken and joyful. "We're both going to Columbia." "Looks like it." He kissed her deeply. "Guess you're stuck with me for 4 more years. Minimum. Minimum. I'm planning on forever, remember?" His eyes were serious now. "I know we're young. I know people will say we're crazy. But Maya, I've never been more certain of anything. You're my person. My endgame. So yeah, minimum 4 years. But I'm hoping for about 60. Maya kissed him then, pouring everything into it. Love and gratitude and relief and joy. They made love on his couch with desperate sweetness, celebrating their future, their luck, their absolute certainty in each other. The rest of senior year passed in a blur of preparations and celebrations. Jaehyun and Maya were inseparable, planning their New York life with excitement that was contagious. They found an apartment near campus, small but perfect. They researched classes and professors. They dreamed about lazy weekends in Central Park, about Broadway shows and coffee shops, and building a life together. Graduation came with tears and laughter. Maya's father couldn't be there, still deployed, but he sent a video message that made her cry. Jaehyun's parents came, expensive cameras in hand, and they pulled Maya into photos like she'd always been family. And when Jaehyun gave his valedictorian speech, he looked directly at Maya while talking about love and courage and choosing the people who make you better. "This past year, I learned that being vulnerable isn't weakness," Jaehyun said, his voice carrying across the auditorium. "That loving someone with your whole heart is the bravest thing you can do. That the right person doesn't complete you. They challenge you to complete yourself. To whoever that person is for you, hold on tight. Fight for them. Choose them every single day. Because that kind of love, that's worth everything. Maya was crying by the end, and Jaehyun came straight to her when he left the stage, kissing her in front of everyone. The crowd cheered, and for once Maya didn't care about the attention. All that mattered was this moment, this man, this future they were building together. 3 months later, they moved to New York. The apartment was tiny compared to what Jaehyun was used to, but he loved it because Maya loved it. They unpacked together, hanging photos and arranging furniture, making the space theirs. And on their first night, lying in their new bed with city sounds drifting through the windows, Jaehyun pulled out a small box. "I know we're starting university tomorrow," he said, opening it to reveal a delicate promise ring. "And I know we're only 18. But I need you to know that this is forever for me. That I'm committed to you. To us. To whatever life throws at us. Will you wear this as a promise that someday, when we're ready, I'm going to ask you properly?" Maya's hand shook as he slid the ring on her finger. Yes. God, yes. They made love with tender intensity, celebrating their new beginning. And afterward, wrapped in each other, Maya felt something shift. A flutter. A possibility. She didn't say anything, not wanting to worry him. But 2 weeks later, when the pregnancy test came back positive, she knew their plans were about to change dramatically. "I'm pregnant," she told Jaehyun one evening after class, unable to keep the secret any longer. He went very still. "You're sure?" "I've taken 4 tests. I have a doctor's appointment scheduled for Friday." Her voice shook. "I know this isn't what we planned. I know it's terrible timing, but Jaehyun, I can't. I won't. We're keeping this baby. Obviously." He pulled her into his arms. "This is just unexpected. But good, right?" "Right." Maya started crying. "I'm scared." "Me too." He held her tighter. "But we'll figure it out together. Like we figure out everything." The next 9 months were chaos. University, pregnancy, preparing for parenthood while barely out of childhood themselves. Jaehyun's parents were shocked but supportive, immediately setting up trust funds and offering help. Maya's father, when told, had reservations but ultimately gave his blessing. And Jaehyun proved himself in ways Maya hadn't imagined. He went to every appointment, read every book, took on extra work to support them financially even though his family had money. He rubbed Maya's feet when they swelled, held her hair when morning sickness struck, assembled baby furniture at 3 in the morning while she directed from bed. He loved her through every mood swing, every fear, every moment of doubt. "You're going to be an amazing father," Maya told him one night, her hand on her swollen belly. "I'm going to try." Jaehyun kissed her stomach. "Hey, kid. Your mom and I are going to mess this up sometimes. But we're going to love you so much. You're already the best thing that's ever happened to us." Their daughter was born on a snowy February morning. Perfect and tiny and absolutely theirs. They named her Hope after Maya's grandmother, and she had Jaehyun's eyes and Maya's smile. Holding her for the first time, Maya understood what unconditional love truly meant. "She's perfect," Jaehyun whispered, tears streaming down his face. "We made something perfect." 2 years later, on Hope's 2nd birthday, Jaehyun proposed properly. On one knee in Central Park with Maya's father there via video call. With Hope babbling happily in her stroller. Maya said yes before he finished asking, and when he slid the ring on her finger, she knew with absolute certainty that this was her forever. They married that summer in a small ceremony that blended both their cultures, surrounded by people who'd watched them grow from high school sweethearts into partners, parents, soulmates. And when Jaehyun kissed his bride, Hope squealed happily from her grandmother's arms, as if blessing their union. "I love you," Jaehyun said, his forehead pressed to Maya's. "Thank you for seeing me. For choosing me. For building this life with me." "I love you more," Maya whispered back. "Thank you for fighting for us. For being exactly who I needed." They danced under string lights as the sun set, their daughter between them, their future stretching out bright and certain and absolutely theirs. The curvy black girl and the Korean-American boy who defied every expectation. Who'd chosen each other against all odds. who'd built something beautiful from absolutely nothing. And in that moment, surrounded by love and family and the life they'd created together, Maya knew with absolute certainty that every hardship had been worth it. Every tear, every fight, every moment of doubt had led them here. To this moment, this family, this forever. What are you thinking about? Jaehyun asked, spinning her gently. That I'm glad I didn't give up, Maya said, referencing the dark place she'd been before meeting him. That I'm glad you were stubborn enough not to give up on me. I'll never give up on you. He kissed her softly. You're my always, Maya Park. My forever and always. And under the stars, with their daughter giggling and their families celebrating and the future bright ahead, they held each other close and knew that some love stories were worth every obstacle, every challenge, every impossible moment. Because when it's real, when it's right, when it's forever, it's worth absolutely everything. If you enjoyed this story, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, beautiful people. See you in the next one.